Now, you may take offense to this title, but just know that garbage can still be refurbished. Like, yeah, your positioning may be garbage right now, but hey, by the end of this video, we're gonna have your positioning look like a big old castle made out of garbage. But first, we need to talk about positioning as a concept in general, because something you need to understand is that positioning in a game like Valorant is all relative, or really positioning in any game, right? Like, let's think about how a goalie would stand in a game of soccer, or football if you're not from the US. And for the record, I'm not throwing any shade, the game is called soccer where I'm from, so I'm calling it soccer. In a game like soccer, generally the goalie's job is to position himself between the ball and the net. Obviously, his goal is to stop the ball from going into the net, so his position is going to be relative to where the ball is. Notice how as the ball moves, the goalie is going to have to move as well. If the goalie was on the opposite side of the goal from the ball, we would call his position bad. He is going to get punished for his positioning because the opposing team is likely going to score. In Valorant, it's the same idea. You need to position relative to who your opponents are and where they are at. Now, because video games can introduce infinite numbers of variables, now instead of the example being the goalie, the player, and the ball, the example is going to be you, the 5 enemy players, the abilities they have, the abilities that you have, the map that you're playing on, how your teammates are playing, the time during the round, where the spike is positioned, the gun you're using, the gun that they're using, the elevation of the angle that you're playing, the options that you have after the engagement, where the enemy's crosshair placement is likely to be positioned. As you can understand, positioning is relative, and there are infinite scenarios that we could craft around positioning. This is why, before we move on to the rest of the video, if you wanted to see Radiant level players go over their positioning live during actual matches, we just uploaded a bunch of new Smurf commentaries to our website where the top players in the game walk you through how to carry in your rank. This is also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so there is literally no risk. Let's get back to the video, but if you wanted the fastest way to improve at Valorant, then be sure to check out skillcap.com, link in the description below. There are a lot of positioning guides on YouTube though, and I want to provide you guys with something that you maybe haven't heard before that will help you think about your positioning more critically and assess any position for yourself. Because like we said, positioning is relative, and the position that is good in one situation might not be good in another. So the first question we need to ask in any position is, what is my job, or why am I here? Which I think is a question many of us find ourselves asking a lot. Asking yourself this question in game though will help you solve a lot of the problems players have where they bait their entire team without realizing it. Because a lot of the times you'll be playing a position that doesn't actually have a job. Take a look at this clip from a game that I played the other day. This is pretty blatantly an example of somebody who is baiting their teammate. This Reyna doesn't really have much of a job right now because the Sage is clearly going to take first contact here. Maybe if the enemies were going to chase the Sage into vents here, his position would be useful, but this is pretty far-fetched, and once they kill the Sage, they sort of just steamroll onto site. Obviously, this is an extreme example, but sometimes when teaching things, it's best to go over an extreme example so that you can get a better idea of what this would look like in a less extreme example. Because it's easy to not do what this Reyna did, but it's not as easy in this next clip. Notice how in this clip, it's actually a 4v2 right now, so the odds of us losing this round are pretty low, right? Well, not really. 3 members of the team are incredibly low on HP, so this round is a lot more losable than you would think. Now let's pause the video and talk about each of these players' positions right now and what their jobs are. Well, Omen is the only full HP player, so his job right now is to absolutely not take solo duels. He wants to use his teammates as a tool because they are low HP so that he can trade them out and get kills. He can actually do this from backside as well, but he needs to peek off of the Raze's contact. So now let's bounce towards the Raze. What is her job then? Well, as we said, it's to stay alive so that Omen can play off of her contact. This means not aggressively peeking angles and probably just hiding on site. What she can do, however, is play off of the Skye's contact, because Skye is currently positioned in a really strong position in spawn. This means that Skye's job is to watch the cross onto site so that when she makes contact, her teammates can play off of her. And her teammates, meaning Cypher on Pillar, can swing once the Skye makes contact on the player dropping down from Hell. So everybody has their job, and as long as they stick to their job, the round should work out fine theoretically. However, what you're going to see instead is Omen is going to peek and get headshot, bringing all 4 members of the team down to low HP. Skye is going to start to flank, making it so her teammates cannot play off her contact, and also putting her in a worse position because the bomb is actually not planted for Heaven, so if by chance she does make it through, she will now be in a worse position than she was before. Raze is going to swing out from cover, making it so Omen can't play off of her contact, and because she didn't communicate anything, Cypher is going to have a momentary lapse and miss his opportunity to play off of her as well. Notice how many things actually go down in a matter of seconds though in this round, and suddenly they end up losing a 4v2 because of this. Each player had a job in their position, but they didn't really recognize their job, and it caused them to play each position incorrectly and lose the round. This is why it's so important to think about what your job is whenever you're setting up for these site holds or post plants or retakes. You need to know what you need to do to win the round. Sometimes what you need to do is literally just stay alive. Like if you're in a super strong position like this Skye was, literally just staying alive will give your team a huge chance of winning the round. Other times, your job is going to be a little bit more stressful, such as trading players out or taking a duel that will help even out the numbers for your team. But now that we're thinking about what our job is in each position, let's try to talk about something else that is equally as important, which is, could my position be better? Because we've all had jobs before, right? Well, considering some of us came to Valorant from Fortnite, maybe we haven't all had jobs, but the point is some people do their jobs better than others. And sure, your job could be watching an angle, but what is the best way that you could watch that angle? Because sometimes you're going to want to watch an angle from the safest location, but sometimes, ironically, the safest location is no longer the safest location. And I can't possibly go over all the scenarios in which one position may be good versus when it may be bad. That would be literally impossible to cover, and that's why we do these VOD reviews, by the way, because it helps us find actual examples of real scenarios in the game. And if you wanted to submit a VOD for us to review, by the way, you can do so in our new community Discord. Check that out in the description below. But just like the example I showed on screen, notice how U-Haul can be a good position, but suddenly when your enemy Brimstone has his ult, you better be very careful about playing a position like U-Haul, because this is a very common and strong spot for Brimstone to use his ult. Ultimates are the first example of thinking about enemy utility, but it really extends far deeper than just ultimates. For example, if the enemy team has flashes, you want to position in a way that is going to prevent you from getting flashed. Whether that's around a corner waiting to peek off of the flash, or in a position where the flash won't even hit you, these are both valid options. However, if you're in a situation where the enemy team doesn't even have flashes, or maybe you killed off their only flash agent, or they just didn't even pick a flash agent, or even deeper, if you know the flash agent has used all of their flashes, this leaves you a lot more open to play more closer positions or off angles. Because if you know they're not going to flash around a corner, they're probably going to have to dry peek it. Obviously, you're going to have to worry about recon abilities in this situation, such as drones and darts, but the idea is, because they don't have utility currently available to deal with these off angles, you can abuse that. This is mostly usable in clutch situations when there aren't a lot of opponents alive to trade you out for playing a position such as an off angle or a one and done. Because obviously, even if their team doesn't have flashes and you just position in the middle of nowhere, you're probably going to get traded out. This is why we ask ourselves the question of, could this position be better? Because as you start to climb in the ranks, you'll start to think about how could this position possibly be better? And oftentimes the answer is going to be, if I had a teammate to play off of me, that would make this position better. And because of that, you'll start suggesting things like, hey, can you come over here and play off of me? Come over here and set up a crossfire with me. This is an example of making a position that is all right, really strong. And it's all done by taking an initial concept, such as, what if I stand in this spot, and turning it into, what if I stand in this spot, and then when Sova tries to drone me, my teammate shoots the drone, causing the drone to not only not see me, but my teammate will pull their attention towards him so that they won't expect me in the corner and I will pick up 2 to 3 kills because of it. Notice how big of a role the teammate plays in this setup, and that's going to oftentimes be the answer to how do I make this position stronger, playing off of your teammates. Because a position that is played solo is generally okay. However, if you play off your teammates, it's going to generally multiply the value of your position, and that is the key to playing this game at a higher level. For example, take a look at this Omen clip where he teleports to the other side of Garage at the start of the round. This is not really a good position to be in solo, because the enemies are probably going to hear his teleport and trade him out. However, if you couple this with a Skye flash like they do, the enemies are going to hear the Omen teleport, push out to kill him, and then the Skye can flash them, and they can play off of each other because they have a crossfire. Because of this, they end up picking up a kill on the unsuspecting Jett, and this is just a base level example of how this stuff can be used. Again, the emphasis being here, the Omen TP play is probably a pretty bad idea solo, but when done with a teammate, it can actually be pretty strong. Lastly, I want to finish off here by telling you guys a little bit more about Skillcapped. We offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, which we think is pretty crazy. It's like your local gym promising you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered you that, right? Not us, that's how confident we are that our service works. Over on our website, we have tons of examples of Radiant level players showing you exactly how to carry in your ranks, as well as courses tailored specifically to what you need to learn so that you can improve at Valorant faster than other players. So if you're looking for the fastest way to improve at Valorant, I highly encourage that you head down to the description below and check out skillcapped.com. Anyway though, thank you all for watching the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.